think the real question is, will a system develop in the Muslim world that's acceptable to people like David Cameron and Barack Obama and any Republican leader you can put your hand on? We're afraid of anything that has the word Islamic in it. And to expect somehow we're going to have a government emerge in Egypt that's not heavily influenced by Islam is silly. And we also face, you know, our foreign policy, Western foreign policy in the Middle East for 40 years has been based on the maintenance of tyranny. I think that was bad from the start, but nonetheless, that was our strategy, and it's now falling apart. But the result of our support for tyranny was the development of a situation in almost every country where there are only two organizations capable of governing. One is the tyranny, the other one is the Islamic resistance. So the question really is, when they find out that you're not going to have a government in Egypt that looks like the government in Florida, for example, are you going to be happy with it, or are you going to intervene to try to tear it down until you get something that you like? My own guess is the current administration won't like anything that comes about in Libya, in Tunisia, in Egypt.
If a radical Islamic government rises in Egypt, one that disavows the Camp David peace accords and no longer acts as a stable strategic partner in the Middle East, then we will look back on the recent election in Egypt and its successors in December and January as the turning point for a historic reversal of the United States. My hope is that the State Department watches this very carefully. My hope is that we have a plan to make sure this critical country stays within the U.S. orbit. But my fear is, given the recent elections in Egypt, we have already lost quite a bit of ground. And if current trends continue, then by the middle of next year, we will have a Muslim Brotherhood government in command of the Suez Canal, in charge of Cairo, the second center of learning in the Arab world, along the border of our Israeli allies, friendly to Hamas, friendly to Iran, and hostile to Europe and the United States. And my hope is, over the holidays, we work very hard and diligently with our allies and especially liberal forces in Egypt to make sure that that reversal doesn't happen. And with that, Mr. President, I yield now.
كانت هناك قضية بتجهز لقيادات الإخوان المسلمين، وعايز أقول لك على حاجة، وهذا ليس سرا يعلمه اللي بيشتغلوا في السياسة كلهم. كان هناك لقاء بين المخابرات المصرية والمخابرات الأمريكية ومخابرات دول أخرى في الأردن قبل الميليشيات وقبل القصص دي بعد الانتخابات لترتيب كيف يتم ضرب الإخوان المسلمين. وتم الاتفاق، وكان السيد عمر سليمان الله يرحمه حاضر هذا اللقاء، واللقاء ده شهير جدا، وكان لقاء سري بين أجهزة مخابرات لضرب الإخوان المسلمين حتى لا يصعدوا هذا الصعود الكبير. أنا في الوقت ده كنت بدافع عنهم عن حقهم في وجود حزب ليهم. اتخذ القرار وجات المخابرات المصرية مع أمن الدولة ينفذوا القضية بتاعتهم.
Senator Corker, let me talk about our national interest, and particularly vis-a-vis the relationship with the Egyptian military. And let me say that I've been deeply influenced by some of these issues by my experience in Pakistan, where we cut off assistance to the Pakistani military for 12 years with, in my view, disastrous strategic consequences, because now we have a generation of people that have no contact with the American military and no exposure to our values because of their training here. So I think we have some very difficult political issues to work through, but I think our relationship with the Egyptian military, and in turn their relationship with their counterparts in the Israeli military on the very important issues of Camp David implementation and on border issues and on the situation in Gaza is really a cornerstone of peace in the region. So I think we have to look very closely at the role of our assistance in preserving our national security interest in Egypt, and particularly in protecting and working with our ally, Israel.
Chairman. General Dempsey, welcome back. Let's talk about the situation in Egypt. Let me tell you how I feel about this and our commitments under the Camp David Accords, and then let you respond. First, we must maintain the strength of this relationship to enable us to assist and influence Egypt's military leaders. Second, the United States would be short-sighted to overlook the return on investment we get from the Egyptian military. For example, Suez Canal transits for our carrier battle groups, intelligence cooperation, counterterrorism cooperation. I made some pretty emphatic statements. Would you like to elaborate? I'll give you an opportunity to elaborate on what you've said about the relationship that we've had and the assistance and the sales that we've had with the Egyptian military.
Thank you. It goes, my own personal experience with it goes back to when I commanded CENTCOM in 2008. And I can tell you that they're a very strong partner of the United States, a very key nation in the region. As you put it yourself, we enjoy preferential passage in the Suez, dynamic overflight. They've committed to the Camp David Accords. The Israeli military considers the Egyptian military a strong partner. And so in my personal experience, which goes back now about 5 years, they are worth the investment. The Israeli military considers the Egyptian military a strong partner. The Israeli military considers the Egyptian military a strong partner.
Whether it's true or not is a completely different story. The perception is very, very clear that America stood by the Muslim Brotherhood, and even more ironically is that Israel is part and parcel of this perception. Right. Israel and America are one. America sees the Muslim Brotherhood as legitimate, as democratically elected, etc., and Israel the same. Yeah. Which is crazy, but that is the perception. Yeah. Which is crazy, but that is the perception.
My name is Michelle Bachmann. I'm a member of the United States Congress from the United States of America. I want to assure the people of Egypt that I, as a member of Congress, will stand strong in support of continuing military support for United States support financially to stand for the military in Egypt. We've seen the threat that the Muslim Brotherhood has posed around the world. We stand against this great evil. We are not for them. We remember who caused 9/11 in America. We remember who it was that killed 3,000 brave Americans.
No, you don't remember. Because the Muslim Brotherhood is actually a thing. It's not just a term for guys who are Muslims who maybe have siblings. Muslim Brotherhood's a thing in Egypt, a real thing. And members of the United States Congress from the United States of America going to Egypt and telling Egypt that as members of the U.S. Congress, you think that it was the Muslim Brotherhood that did 9/11? Oh, excuse me, I mean 9/11? That's amazing. But that happened in Egypt. Republicans Michelle Bachmann, Steve King, and Louis Gohmert, A, have passports, and B, use them this weekend to go to Egypt to praise the military coup there and to tell the Egyptian people that the Muslim Brotherhood did 9/11. Congressman Gohmert told the Egyptian generals that when he looks at them, he thinks of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Thomas Paine. One political scientist who studies Egypt and the Muslim Brotherhood in particular told the New York Times about this trip today that, quote, that Mr. Gohmert and Mr. King and Ms. Bachmann's visit to Egypt was, quote, like a Saturday Night Live skit. Unbelievable, ludicrous, almost comic if it wasn't so painful.
I think that the whole world should support Sisi. I believe that
the new Egyptian
I think that you have to support him. If we support him, it probably will embarrass him. It probably won't help him. But Sisi and the liberals, Baradei and others, they deserve the support of the free world. To who else they can turn? I think that the whole world should support Sisi. I think that the whole world should support Sisi.